when the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality. Open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club by DLC.
Well, hello there, book clubbers. Hope you're jamming in your seat. Hoping you're having a lovely, lovely time wherever you are, whatever you happen to be doing. I'm Jeff Cannata. I'm here with Lana Bachynski. Hello, Lana.
Hello and good evening. The book club now at our new time of the night.
Book club nights. Yes. So, as I mentioned previously, summer has arrived, and we're doing summer episodes. Summer here, summer there, summer in the morning, summer at night. We're trying to fit it in to busy lives that have become even busier. And this is, a joy for us to do. So it's no chore at all. But it has become a scheduling challenge. And one of the reasons I bring that up is because we are about to arrive at the 4th of July holiday for the United States. Boxing Day for Canada, right? Boxing Day is
the 1st of July?
Yeah.
It's not Boxing Day. It's a Canada Day.
A Canada Day.
Yeah.
Now, Boxing Day is a Christmas thingy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I get all the Canadian things wrong. Anyway, so there's going to be vacations taken. And so one of the next 2 weeks, we haven't figured it out exactly yet, Lana and I, but one of the next 2 weeks, there will be no episode. So maybe next week there will be an episode. Maybe not. Maybe there will be one. And then the following week there won't. It's a surprise for all of us. But wanted to give you a heads up, folks. And again, the best way to keep up to date on whether there will or won't be an episode or any kind of announcements we have is to join our Discord, which is 5x5 DLC on Discord. Always we will be as forthcoming as possible there. Let folks know when to expect a new episode or not. But yeah, it's a little herky-jerky time, and we're doing our best. So we appreciate you hanging out with us anytime you can make time. So we'll do our best to stay as consistent as we can, but there will be a few weeks here or there in the summer where we can't do it. So this week we are here, and we've got two awesome chapters 9 and 10 of Dust of Dreams. And we also have a wonderful non-spoiler topic. This is how we love to start the show. Even if you're not caught up with us, you can hang out, talk about books and reading and all the fun stuff. And we love when these topics are sent in by you, our audience, to dlcfeedback@gmail.com. This one was sent there by Dave. Dave writes a lengthy email. I'll try to hit most of it. Dave says, hey, Lana and Jeff, first off, I have to tell you what a delight it is to watch the book club. I began watching about a year ago, at which point I believe you guys were already a year into your journey. Your enthusiasm and humor brings me back episode after episode. The interviews with Steven are also a strong draw. So thank you for doing the show. I began reading Malazan, the main series, in 2017. I believe I discovered it on Reddit and decided right at the beginning that I would read one book per year. Having said that, I am immediately reminded of a comment that Lana made during either book 6 or 7, to the effect of, I can't understand how anyone could not read these books in any way other than back to back. I guess I wanted to experience the books as original readers would have, with breaks based on publication schedule. I love to experience variety in my reading, and I'm not one who tends to read more than one book at a time. Nevertheless, I don't think you were wrong, Lana. In fact, after I read House of Change in 2020, I was seriously thinking of abandoning the series. I was finding it too hard to follow. I was unable to find another living, breathing human who could read it with me. Also, I found that reading the wiki and using other online resources had led to some spoilers, so I stopped using them. I began watching the book club in April of 2024 and have arrived on your episodes. It's now my intention to crank through everything in the next couple of weeks and join you up to date. I'm certainly hoping you will continue the book club after you finish Malazan. I'd be up for Jeff's suggestion of the Robin Hobb series, beginning with Assassin's Apprentice. Anyway, I can skip a lot of this stuff, but the non-spoiler topic suggestion partially inspired by Jeff's comment at the beginning of episode 1 that Malazan had been on his TBR for a decade. A TBR, of course, if you're not in the know, is to be read. It's a list of books that people make for themselves to get excited about reading what's next or what's upcoming. Do you recall, writes Dave, which books spent the longest time on your TBR list? 2 examples for me. First, Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurdy, which went on my TBR in the 80s. And I finally read it in 2022 after seeing it praised so many times on Reddit. What kept me away was that it was a Western, which has never been among my favorite genres. It also does start a bit slowly, but my goodness, it is an astonishing work of fiction. DLC Bookclub possibility. A second example that remains on my TBR since high school, 45 years ago, is Moby Dick. I'm not yet sure that I will tackle it, but a friend recently told me that there's a decent amount of humor in the book, which may be the kick of the pants I need. Sorry for the long-winded email. Just wanted to thank you again for creating the book club. I'm super pumped to join you. Best regards, Dave. All right. TBRs. As we have recounted number of times, am the king of TBRs. I TBR more than I are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But your TBR list, you actually have like the list. You've had the Goodreads long enough that you could actually look back and like look up dates and things like that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Lonesome Dove actually just went on my TBR list.
That's interesting. I have heard very good things about it too, but like Dave, I am so uninterested in Western novels in general, just the Western genre, which is weird because I like Western movies. I love Westerns, Good, Bad, and the Ugly. There's a lot of wonderful classic Westerns that I value very highly, but the idea of reading a Western for some reason just does not intrigue me at all.
I actually agree with you. It went on my TBR list because I've started stacking my TBR list to avoid, Dave's situation of basically only recommendations of books that people have told me to read. And I put the note of who recommended it.
Oh,
so
that's
in this
smart.
case, I was looking for, my off Malazan book that I have been reading in the spare time. I finished the Silo series, which I really enjoyed. And I went through my list and I'm like, I haven't done a recommendation
Wool,
from one of my
books
brothers
are Wool,
before.
right?
The first one is Wool. And then it's Dust. And then
I read Wool, but I didn't go on, so I don't know.
Yeah, they're great. I love them. It's like easy reads, just delightful to read.
Yeah.
But I haven't had taken a recommendation from my brother, and he had recently read Lonesome Dove. Thought I recommended it to him, told me it was great, and I said I'll read it for your recommendation. He said it was your recommendation, and so anyway, so that's a recent add to my TBR list. But the one that's probably been sitting on the longest is also similarly, Dave. The classics. The longest one, I think, is one, if I think back, probably 8th grade, Neuromancer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I've never read Neuromancer. And despite it being around and people like making references to it, they like slide off my brain because I'm like, that's from Neuromancer. And I don't want to remember it. So I don't know anything about it other than it's cyberpunk.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like the cyberpunk. Yeah. It's that's a funny thing about some of those books that inspired everything else, that it's like if you've read a lot of the everything else's and you go back to the OG, it doesn't feel as exciting perhaps. I that's a book I enjoyed back in high school, but I have not read it in a long time, obviously. But yeah, it's good. It's
bought copies of it. I have it like on the shelf. And for some reason, it's just, even after I bought it, I'm like, now I'll finally read this classic when I get to it. And I still just haven't.
Yeah. I could do 2 hours on the TBRs, obviously, because like Dave was saying, Malazan was on my TBR for a decade. And so there's lots of books where I'm like, I'll get around to that eventually. And then I get excited about some new shiny thing, or I talk myself out of it in some weird way, or, there's just so many. Like I said, I obsess about the decision. Yeah. The decision of what to read next so much. I put so much effort into it. And also I'm at the point now where I will like jump off of something fast. I never used to be that way. I used to force myself to muddle through if I was not liking something. These days, if I read like 2-3 chapters and it's not
Catching
I'm not
ya?
into it. If there's like too many adverbs, I'm out. I'm out. No time for this. I got too many things on that TBR.
Throw it in the review. You got to tell people. If you got a big TBR list, this isn't the one. Adverbs galore.
Got too many adverbs. But one that I think a fun way to answer this question is what has been on my TBR extremely long, and then I did read it, like Malazan. I think I talked to you about this offline, but I finally got around to listening to the audiobook of The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky, which, is one of those classics that I'd always wanted to read. I'd read Crime and Punishment, back, I think in high school as an assignment, but I never read like Dostoevsky for pleasure or any of the sort of great Russian literature, works for pleasure. I've always kind of wanted to read Tolstoy and I just never did. And somebody, I can't remember who, somebody recommended the audiobook of The Brothers Karamazov. And I have to say, it is the most incredible audiobook performance I have ever heard. And we've talked a lot about great audiobook narrators before. And this is, the book is massive. It's like a 35-hour audiobook, something even more than that. Let me look it up real quick because I have it right here. It's like 37 hours. And the one that I have is the Penguin Classics, translated by David McDuff and narrated by Luke Thompson, who I believe people know from, there's like a hit sort of rom-com, like Pride and Prejudice-y kind of TV Netflix show that he was on. I don't know him. Didn't know him before this.
I don't know.
But I will tell you, incredible.
Wow.
Incredible. The most, as somebody that has done audiobooks, that does a lot of voiceover, I was in awe of his skill. It's not just doing voices. It's the parsing of very sophisticated sentence structure and making it all sound conversational, but also not throwing anything away and making every word land and land in the right way and conveying the thoughts and making it just, it feels like he memorized the entire book. It does not feel like he's reading it. It feels like he's performing it like he would be performing a soliloquy. It is staggeringly good. And it makes, and I think honestly, this translation is very good because I was listening to it before Christmas and I asked for a copy of Brothers Karamazov for Christmas. And I did not specify which translator, and somebody got a different translation. And I was like listening to the thing and wanted to, see the words, and they were different. And I think this translation is also extremely good. But anyway, so that was on my TBR for crazy long time. And then I finally got around to it. And it was a huge, just like Malazan has been, a huge success. Like, oh, I should have read this long time ago.
That's the reason I feel like so many classics are on my TBR list. I'm not even going to pretend like I can name classics off the top of my head. I can't remember the names of the characters in the book we're reading. But there's something about them that there's like a weight to them where they feel a little like school because they want you to read them in school. But then you read them and you're like, oh, they're in school because they're so good that societally we were like, people should read this.
That's right. That's I can get on a whole other rant about that because I think it bums me out that English and literature in general is delivered to kids as a chore instead of like, we as a culture thought this was so freaking good that we decided every person should read it. Like that's how amazing this is.
Mm-hmm.
We just thought there shouldn't be a single child raised in this country that shouldn't read that.
Yeah.
That's how much we thought it was amazing. And it was written to make money. It was written as entertainment, you know?
It was a pulp story.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just like a fun thing someone did to be like, you guys like that? I got more of that came from.
Yeah. And we were like, you know what? That was so awesome. Everyone should read that.
I'm changed as a person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway. So there you go, folks. That's some stuff that's been, again, my TBR is, I have literally on Goodreads, I have multiple TBR lists and they're dated. Like I put these on in February of 2019. I put these on in June of 2006. You know, it's pathetic.
It's more organizationally, it'd be might more enticing rather than the dates being like exciting fantasy reads, wonderful, beautiful classics. Being like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling February 2022 right now.
Well, what I would do is I would get all hot and bothered. Like I'd be finishing up a book and I'd be like, I want to read something new. And then I would get on, you know, back when Twitter was actually a useful thing. I would get on Twitter and be like, hey, everybody, tell me the best book you read in the last 6 months. And then I'd get all these things that I'd never heard of. And I just make Goodreads lists of them all.
Oh.
And so they're like, demarcated by those moments when I did that.
When you did the sourcing.
Yes. And I would just source more. I wouldn't go back to the old list and be like, oh, I have to read those. I just continued a new source. Anyway, I have a problem is what I'm saying. Well, that was a long-winded way of doing that question, but we really appreciate it, Dave. Thank you. That's what happens when you do book club nights. Jeff gets verbose. Can't shut me up. Let's jump in and start talking about chapter 9. So spoilers starting now for Dust of Dreams. We start with a series of scenes in chapter 9 that are very funny with Tehal and Bug and Janeth and Shirk. And it's a series of who's fooling who's pulling the wool over whose eyes.
What a relief. I gotta say, I felt concern in my heart for Steven. Briefly. Who's fooling who? I was a little fooled. And I was also like, this can't possibly be real.
Yeah.
And I'm so delighted that it was not. But we've got Queen Janeth and Shirk playing the jealousy fight and the sassy girl diss off over dinner time. That as like their idea of being like, this will be a ruse. Those boys won't know what hit them kind of thing.
Well, I know what'll get rid of them so we can talk in private. Pretend we hate each other. But then the scene immediately after that is Tail and Bug being like, so I'm glad we got out of that. You know, they're like, they think they fooled us, but we fooled them because we didn't want to be there anyway. It was just like, if everybody was just honest to each other, we could just
just have different dinner parties
ourselves because we all want to leave.
Exactly. And Tehal, even that question being like, what do you think that was about? And Bug just being like, they had to make it look convincing. So they know. It's like, what do you think that's about? Why didn't they just tell us was really the question. It's like, well, anyway, shall we take a stroll?
It feels like the most fun couples that you know over at, you know, you have a dinner party or whatever. And so, and everybody is just doing bits, you know, it feels a little bit like that.
Yeah.
And I found it to be very endearing and very fun. And I love that Shirk and Janeth are like best buds, you know, and
doing schemes,
super schemes. And all of the, like, I'm going to make you feel super uncomfortable because I'm talking about being unfaithful. And then the boys leave and she's like, no, but seriously, you should definitely cheat on your husband because it's rad.
Yeah. Have you considered this kind of implant?
Yeah. Open relationship, Utulu, let's do this, girl. But embedded in all that is this introduction to Princess Filash?
Filash? What's her name?
Yo. That was terrible. The 14th daughter of King Tarkul of Bolkando, who we had been told had been sacrificed to make sure that the process of potentially coming to a truce or a negotiation would be done in good faith. Not dead, which honestly I found to be a relief, because it's like, man, there's a lot of pressure on those peace talks.
Yeah.
You're going to sacrifice one of your daughters.
Yeah.
But no, she's alive and well. And she is in the royal court, basically, with a lady in waiting, her attendant. Handmaiden. That's the word. Thank you. And she seems like a real peach.
Real peach. Peachy in every aspect. The description of her like being like a little thickums with like just straps and like makeup and like sexified in a way. And then her handmaiden being like jacked and handsome kind of is like an interesting little duo.
Yeah.
It's also interesting sort of the portrayal of her being like, I look great.
Oh, I love the intro where Janeth is like, wow, you are pulling that off, I guess. You're doing that. And she's like constantly just takes it as a compliment. Thank you. Nobody else can recognize my amazing fashion sense.
You really tried. You really went for it.
Yeah. Only you could attempt that. Thank you very much. Yes, nobody else recognizes my genius.
And I love that it's described that as she's saying that, the handmaiden's like, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Like sussing her out for being sort of sideways compliment. And then interesting to sort of like position this person as an ally, someone they're helping. Janath is setting up Shirk to be the captain to get this woman to safety out of the city. But they're also positioning her to kind of be like a piece of crap, not just for her bad fashion sense, but sort of the painting of like, well, we brought you these sweets, and having her be like this in denial, being I couldn't possibly have one. I would never have one of things. And then eating like all of them on all the honey cakes on the plate is like an interesting, like it's just an interesting sort of character thing that feeds into her being kind of a classic princess of like, baby want, baby get.
But she's also evidently very skilled with knives,
which is revealed afterwards.
That's right. So everybody's sort of
rusing around.
Yes, everybody's sort of playing a role, pretending to be something they're not, pulling the wool over everybody else. It's like a series of constant feints, constant deception. Everybody, some people seeing through things, some people not. Underestimating, overestimating, and I loved how each scene kept layering on
those
a new
moments.
A new deception.
Yeah. Even her like revealing that she's like more tuned into things. Shirk being like, you want us to go out there? I mean, it's going to cost you bucks because there's pirates out there. And Flash being like, but you're a pirate.
Yeah.
And her being like, well, I didn't tell you that. She's like clearly more than she seems to be, but the Queen Janath even having those sweets on offer, like there is exactly like you said, layers and layers in this little scene.
And we're led to believe that for the princess is there on her mother's behest as a spy, an assassin. We're not really sure yet, but certainly much more than just can you possibly take me from here to there? There's an edge to what's going on, and in their private scene, she's like, are we gonna have to kill Shirk? And she's like, well, she's already dead, right? You know that, right? You got the fact that she's already dead. And she's like,
maybe.
Oh, interesting.
And we'll have to do something else. And she's like described as kind of like fluttering her hands about and like a knife appearing with rapidity.
So it feels like there's definitely more than meets the eye to all of these characters, particularly the newest ones. And I don't think we've seen the last of them, but they are persuaded to stay on the boat and go bring Ublala Pung toward his destination, even though he doesn't know where he's going to get, on Karsa Orlong's behest.
Mission.
Yeah. All right. And so I thought all of that stuff was really fun. The next scene, though, I think is even more awesome. We get this backstory for Deadsmell that I just thought was incredible.
Unsurprisingly awesome story.
Yes.
Bringing somebody into the story and everybody's like, ew, you're a necromancer, you're gross and weird. And it's like the most honorable man in the city who cares for those when they have nobody, no gods, no family. It's like, unsurprisingly, another awesome guy.
Incredible. Like his whole backstory about, caring for people and sort of the guy who would tend to the dead passing away, him discovering them, sort of taking over. All that stuff's awesome. But then it just gets 27 times more awesome when he literally has a conversation with Hood.
Mm-hmm.
And Hood is like, it's Erikson completely reimagining what a necromancer is. To my mind, it's like recontextualizing the entire notion of necromancy, which always feels like this affront to death. It's this foul thing where you're pulling something back to life, and zombies, and it's dark and evil. And here's this,
and we've had other necromancers even through the book. We haven't seen them in a while, but what is it?
They have their own book.
They have their own book. They're doing something over there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's noble as hell, but they're presented as grossos, and people are freaky deaky, chop them up, rise them up. Now I got my army, guys.
Yeah. And to have him be not only just like this noble soul who honors the dead, but also the relationship between him and literally the Grim Reaper, literally the god of death, who is like, hey, here's the thing. I respect you and you respect me. We are in a game. We are at odds with each other, and we are going to be in a tete-a-tete for the rest of your life. And this is how it's going to be. And
I will win eventually.
Yeah.
And I will respect you until that time. But you will always be running from me. And the work that you do is in direct opposition to me. And I know that.
Incredible. Incredible. This is among my favorite chapters of this novel so far, just from this scene alone.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible stuff. And really, Deadsmell had been a periphery character. And then we had the reading of the deck, where it was kind of playing it for laughs, where he brought, all the things were coming back to life. And I was like, oh, Deadsmell's like a fun character. And now I just love this character because of all the new information we got about him.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. But then, back to present, he and Bottle are also having a conversation about the aerosol, because like Deadsmell's like onto that whole situation with a Bottle and the aerosol.
I guess still visits him in his dreams like every night, basically.
I guess he's just still having wet dreams about the aerosol every night.
Every night, man.
Yeah.
Dang, dude.
It's exhausting. So this scene ends where he says, Deadsmell says he's out of moves, which I was like, ooh, what does that mean? Which is pretty intense. But they're trying to find Sin and Grub. And Bottle says that Sin and Grub, Deadsmell tells Bottle that they went into the Azath house and disappeared the way Kalanved and Dancer learned how to do.
Interesting.
That's pretty juicy tidbit there.
I agree. I also if I recall correctly, they like very much don't like each other.
Who, Deadsmell and Bottle?
Is that correct?
I did not get that sense in this scene.
Oh, I might have.
But maybe I just missed it.
I might have been misinterpreting it. Well, they sort of, Deadsmell's like, we got to go do this thing that we don't want to do, but we're doing it together. Let's go. There's sort of this begrudging attitude.
Yeah.
He's out of moves, I think, seems in reference to, the flashback to like this game that him and Hood will be playing forever. And if
Yeah.
Hood is gone, I mean, from the last book, right? You got his head chopped off.
Yeah. Yeah, but Deadsmell basically says he senses him again, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says like I can't remember what the exact phrase is, but he says something along the lines of like I interpret it as maybe Hood is not out the picture completely.
I felt like I assumed that from the moment that it happened, but I still don't really have a good grip on what that means and what that looks like for the future of this tale.
Yeah.
The other thing I like about this scene is he's like, look, check it out. I'll show you what's up. And he's like, call your little minions or whatever. And he sent something through the portal after sending grub. Oh, the dogs. They went and got the dogs. You muted yourself or something somewhere? Can you hear me?
I was muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, great. No worries.
It was the dogs. It was the dogs all the way from the chain of dogs. It was our two dogs.
The cattle dog and the lap dog.
That's right.
He went and they had to go like choke the dog and like put them in submission. Be like, go, I'm letting you out, but leave us alone, because they attack them immediately. But they run through the thing, and Bottle's like, you idiot. If you just told me what we were doing here, I could have just like cast my consciousness into one of them and we could have just followed them through and had more information. And Deadsmell was like, well, I forgot you could do that.
Live and learn, I guess. Yeah, that was funny. I remember that. The other cool little tidbit from this scene is Hood telling Deadsmell at one point that all the gods will one day have to answer to death.
Yeah. Like he is the ultimate god.
Yeah.
The whole notion of that scene is everything dies. You run, you could do whatever. Your whole life, great. It's your whole life. Guess what I am? Death. I'm at the end. I win.
There's a lot. I mean, this whole chapter 9 there's a lot of this recurring theme of talking about death, because the next scene we have Helien talking about this dead minnow that she found, and the sort of musing on death and just trying to remember her own back. It's really funny because it's like we have Deadsmell like recalling his backstory, and then the next scene is Helien like, I have a backstory. I can't remember it, but I definitely have one. It's so funny.
I have a backstory, and I even have any part, because she's like kind of dreaming, right?
Yeah.
So we see her sort of like in her own mind, and then coming out of it and being like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
Ew, what am I sober? Gross.
I know. Skulldeath. She and Skulldeath clearly have just had sex, and he's so into her. And it's like, you're going to be my queen. You don't need to know anything about yourself because you're my queen now. And we're going to, she's like, screw you. I'm not going to, the whole idea of royalty is stupid. Anybody like kneeling to anybody else. And he's like, well, you kneel to your, you salute your commanding officer. And she's like, that's different. We both entered into that knowingly. There's no divine right of kings there. It's a situation that is mutually beneficial for our own survival. And the hierarchy of command requires it. And I went into that willingly. And I just thought, wow, what a cool point of view to have about that kind of relationship.
It is a cool point of view. And it is just interesting how it feels like we're quite early in the book. How many sort of times this idea of like who you're bowing to, who is your god?
Yeah.
From Caitlith being like, maybe you're your own god. You ever think about that?
Right.
To the Malazans marching towards what for who?
Yeah.
To this like just individual sort of look at the relationship between a soldier and their commanding officer. Pops up again and again.
Yeah, and that recurring theme of death. Again as well, because in the next scene we have Fiddler and Cuddle talking about Hedge coming back from the dead and being like, what, you guys were like bros, why do you got the heebie-jeebies? He came back. Isn't that like the greatest thing ever that your bro died and now he's back? Isn't that cool? And he's like, no man, I grieved. Like I let him go. I went through this entire emotional process where I was accepting his death, and then he strolls back in. Like, what is that about?
Mm-hmm.
That messed me up. And now every time I look at him, I see all the other people who haven't come back, all the other deaths.
Yeah.
Very powerful stuff, I thought. Really interesting. So insightful as to, it's such the case with Erikson over and over and over again. It's like the most obvious way things play out isn't the direction he takes, but the direction he takes often feels more resonant in some way. Like for its novelty, it also feels somehow more appropriate and more true.
It's not like so novel or so like, ooh, what an innovation on the thought that you're like, oh, that's interesting. It feels immersive. It pulls me in more rather than me feeling like I'm seeing it from a third person out of myself, even being like a curious reaction. It's like doesn't make it feel scientific. It makes it feel like just a depth, emotion
it doesn't
I can
feel,
jump into.
It's not novel for novel's sake, or it's not just there to sort of break the cliche. Like he breaks the cliche and then finds a way to ground it it feels like this is makes more sense. This is how it really would be. And that's an amazing skill to have, I think.
It's totally unrelated to anything other than Fiddler's commentary.
Yeah.
Loosely. And even reading these two chapters, there's not like a good thing for like hook for me to bring it up. But Bottle and Deadsmell looking at the Azathoth, Fiddler being like, who didn't come back? A name we haven't really mentioned, but is lightly mentioned through here is Kalam.
Yeah, everybody thinks he's dead.
He's just in there.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Right.
But then the Azoth, like all the magics are, I guess that's like he's in Malaz, but the Azoth houses are connected. And so I don't know. I feel like we're going to get a Kalam moment.
Oh, 100%. I'm definitely, there's no part of me that thinks we've seen the last of Kalam. But everybody thinks he's dead, right? Everybody just assumes he's dead.
Well, if somebody's gone for that long, I think it's like the self-preservation. Like, yeah, they're dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. But you're right. That name does come up a few times. It's like, but in this sort of like, well, he's dead.
I mean, Fiddler's like, and then there was like Quickman and Kalam, but they were always their own thing. And then Kalam's gone anyway. And like, it sort of like it comes in and then disappears a little bit. And so I'm excited to see where that comes through.
Then we have a number of more scenes of just sort of like Malazan army shenanigans again, the ongoing ongoing tomfoolery of pores and
the ongoing silliness that I know that at some point I will cry emotionally over.
Totally true, right? It's gonna be like, oh, this is funny, and then there's gonna be a turn.
Rum jugs.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I mean, already in here, there's just some lovely moments, right? We have Tar and Smiles having that sort of back and forth, and Korab with his new weapon, and Tar kind of like giving him a little respect for having the new weapon. And then this wonderful recurring joke about nefarious bread again. The one footprint. It could only be nefarious bread, and the guy's like, "What are you talking about? All the other footprints just got washed away." He's like, "No, nefarious bread." And I'm like,
"This is it."
We're gonna have in the final book, we're gonna see nefarious bread was real the whole time, right? He's gonna just stroll around the corner, and they're gonna be like, "There he is! It's gonna
be pores." He's like, that's my mischief.
Yeah. And then of course we have kindly making Pores accept into his squad the two prostitutes,
largest ones who were like the mischievous, gift sent over from Center and Kissware.
Yeah. Now they're full on Malazan soldiers. And rum jugs and sweet lard. Ridiculous.
Well,
and then
like all the conversations that lead to this are so sweet too. So at the very beginning, you mentioned Korab showing up, and he's like just a joyful dude. And Smiles basically getting scolded and being like, you're not being a jerk to people. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Getting in trouble with her, like a commanding officer who commands her, like, oh, you're going to pack bags for everybody now. Goodbye. We'll be excited about the sword. Good luck.
Yeah.
And so she leaves. Then she goes and talks. Then we get Kindly talking to Pores, being like, you got this. Hey, buddy, you love stuff like this and you'll do great. 2 days, huh? Like him sort of testing Pores for being kind of a jerk. Pores then renaming everybody and being like, why are you here? And his like interrogation of them being like, what's your deal? And then or is it the two prostitutes who are like, well, Big Kindly, and he's like, what? And they're like, sorry, Captain Kindly. And he's like, just like burning up, being like, I don't need you to talk about it. I'm like, that it clearly like hates him,
So
kind of.
funny.
It's so funny. And they're like wasted, and he is like, I have exactly the squad for you. And it like immediately karma's back around over to Censure and Kissware.
Yeah. So good. And then we have this lovely little scene with new characters. This soldier who's just been named, I think by Pores, as Twit. He's like, I don't like my name. I don't want to be Twit. And this woman Ruffle is like, well, guess what? We'll say you died, and you're some new person.
Your twin brother came by.
Twin brother, yeah, classic evil twin situation, and we'll call you Sergeant Sunrise. Because you got a fresh start, no debts, no wife that just left you for no reason. It's just like this lovely little moment.
It's a lovely little moment, and it's also one of those things where the names seem to like just be the tip of the tongue, random things, like random semi-insults being delivered by Pores, but then immediately being these things that sort of loop back around into being like kind of true. He's named him Twit. He's like, oh, he's just being a jerk. But then he's like, I don't know what I want to be. And they're like, but your brother's here. He's like, I don't have a brother. They're like, no, we know you don't have a brother, but wink, he just is a bit of a twit. It's so the name also,
it's also fits. Yeah,
wrong.
It's so good. Yeah. It's really, really fun. All right, then we move over to Fiddler and Cuddle, consulting with Brice Benedict about this weird fever that the Malazans are contracting. It's called the shivers. And they have this whole discussion about how their two sides have spread their empirical power throughout the lands through military might and other means. And Fiddler tells this incredible story, which I think is meant to evoke, and certainly evoked for me, the Americas and the colonialists.
Parallels.
Yes, giving the smallpox blankets to Native Americans, and but the way this is again reinterpreted, recontextualized, retold by Fiddler. Obviously, I think Erikson very deliberately is evoking that, but the way he talks about how I don't even know if we did it on purpose. I'm not even sure. It doesn't even matter if we did it on purpose. It's like this, he has thought over and over with that guy who dying from this, from being poisoned. Like, did he hate us? Did he know? Did he blame us?
Yeah.
And he's saying,
I pulled a big quote from that section.
So did I.
Faves,
I imagine it's the same one.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing sequence. Just an amazing sequence. And again, it's like another musing on death, and Brice being like, we just marched slowly, drained these lands of their economic wealth, overtook them slow and steady. It wasn't flashy. They didn't even know it was happening at the time. We just completely sucked them dry of anything that was life-sustaining, moved on, and kept expanding. Whereas the Malazans have this kind of flashy, empire building, conquer the next thing, move on, conquer the next thing. and these like juxtapositions of these two sprawling empires and their methodologies, you know?
Mm-hmm. Is this the scene also where, Fiddler goes and talks to Breeze? He's like, all right, Cuddle, you're with me. And they go talk to Breeze, and Breeze is like, oh yeah, we used to get that all the time. We'll just send some healers over.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Yes.
the Malazan healers are like trying to heal so much they're just collapsing. Everybody's like getting so sick they can't do anything about it. And then I think at the end of this conversation, I love this is the right one, where Fiddler is talking with Breeze, and it's like sort of this distinct vulnerability between both of them.
Yeah.
And he looks over at Cuddle and he's like, you see what your commander's like now? You see how I hated that? I'm not hunger for this. Maybe you can stop obsessing over me or like idolizing me, because this is not, these are the things that I've done, and they're not things I'm happy about. They're just what I did as a soldier.
Yeah.
And then even his vulnerability there, I think it's not said, but it clearly seems that Cuddle's like, man, you don't know what a good guy you are.
I love you even
you don't
more
know
now because you said that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And beautiful, like a beautiful representation of like, don't look, take a good look. You don't want to become this. He's like, I do want to become that.
Even the fact that you're trying to save me from being that makes me want to be it so bad.
Yeah. And it is, Fiddler throughout the series has been this reluctant leader, and that old cliche about, those who are, who least want power are the best to wield it, or however it goes. I think it bears out with this character, and it's so beautifully illustrated, as in, him even being aware, like, listen, it's awful. This burden is awful, and the things we do are awful. Don't idolize me. And he's like, only someone that would say that would be the kind of person
only somebody worthy of my idolization.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So that's the end of chapter 9. Chapter 10. We are back with our wonderful dino friends. Caliph, who has, actually, we get this really cool tidbit. I mean, I don't know of an author that is better at like these just brilliant, could be its own sprawling trilogy of novels idea about the way a culture was built. And he just like tosses it off in a few paragraphs. It's like, oh man, you could do an entire fantasy setting based on this. Mm-hmm. So Caliph is recalling how in her culture at birth, the sister, your mom's sister, like makes you a little clay figurine, and it's strapped to your body and it's with you your whole life. And then when you die, it's burned. And if it cracks, your soul escapes. But if it doesn't, you're it's just like, it's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
So cool.
I love all of that setup. And, Caliph being like this constant, like the chosen one.
Yeah.
He's reluctant power person.
Yeah.
But she's like, this whole thing. Anyway, I lost mine. Totally unforgivable. And if I weren't like the last one of me, that would be so bad.
Yeah. They would really look at me sideways, except there's nobody to look at me at all. Except these dinosaurs with sword arms. And crazy that the dinosaurs, the Kachin Chamale are terrified, right? She's like, what could possibly scare these guys? They're cowering on the ground and hiding
camouflaging.
From something.
Yeah.
These this encroaching cloud, this storm on the horizon, and then the assassin, the winged assassin, Guru, comes up, and she's like, get what do you want?
Well, it's interesting because it feels so tense and so dramatic. Yeah. There's not really any words. She's looking out over the storm. It's clearly described as not a normal storm. The lightning and the light from within the storm is coming from the ground, and that she can see that there's fires being lit up underneath it. But it doesn't make sense of what's happening in that storm and why is it? And at some point the fear gets too much and they her Kachain Chamale buddies like scoop her up and just start sprinting.
Yeah.
They just leg it.
We're out of
and
here.
then they get to the top of this hill somewhere that they can continue to observe the storm, but is ostensibly like a safe distance. It's not clear to me in that moment what they're immediately running from. But then the hunter of hunters, the assassin, the Chagall assassin sort of, is it that what it is? Flies down. And then there's this moment of tension where it's like the oils of like the fight glands are up and the wings are spread. And there's clearly, that they're talking in their minds because we've seen that they do the telekinesis talking to each other. And she just kind of gets a sense of what something is happening and steps in, and whatever conversation was happening that we don't know what it was. She said, I asked them to do this because the storm was getting too close. I told them to do this. And then again, no conversation, beat of tension, wings go out and he's gone.
Yeah. Guru's like, well, fine then. I'm out of here. Bye.
But like so tense and so mysterious.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
But it also, I think, is showing her rising to the occasion, right? Is Calith, who, as were introduced to her at the beginning of the novel, was, vulnerable, was looked down upon, was, are we gonna kill her? Is she? I can't believe the matron even wants her around, and now she has ascended to earn their respect and really almost leading them in a large way, like being the destriant, standing up against this threat and telling it off, and all, it really, I think, coming into her own. And it was such a cool moment, I thought, of really seeing how Calith has, taken that responsibility and risen to the occasion.
I agree. But to me, it also felt like she was doing a bit of a shot in the dark. It seemed like she's like, I'm saying this because I think all of you think you're here to protect me. So I told them to do it. It's on me. Like that burden of leadership, she's just kind of doing it because she doesn't seem like she knows exactly what else to do. She's just kind of been swooped and scooped and ran with. Yeah. Do you have thoughts about like the storm?
I think, well, we get lots more storm stuff. I mean, I had no idea what it was. I thought, we've seen storms of magic that have wiped people out in this series before. So I assumed that was, but then we get, eventually we're going to get to the Tulle scene where he's like, it's not magic. I was like, oh, it's not magic, but everybody's afraid of it. Is it the Forquerel Assail?
Maybe. It's also like storms of dust. I was like, are there a mass in the world still? Is it
it might be, because that's how they sort of travel. But I would put that in the category of magic. Like, he literally says it's not magic. She's like, is it a,
but is it a curse? Is that magic? Bad magic?
Maybe not. Maybe he would not think that was magic as a former Talon Hamas himself. But I don't know. We'll get to that scene. But yeah. To be revealed, I think, is what. Yeah. TBR. So the next scene is a very dark one. Very dark. We get the POV of Zerava of the Snake Hunter. The Snake Hunter is this Gadra Barghast clan that just sounds like a hoot. Just the kind of people you want to invite over and have a pizza with. This fella, doggies, is he a piece of trash? But I mean, I thought very powerful to be inside his POV, because he's, not the best husband.
Yeah, what's your first worst thought at any time?
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy.
Yeah, so this notion of, chopping off the front of the feet so that your wife can't do anything. I mean, he's obviously being cuckolded by his wife, right?
Well, he feels that it is. I'm not 1,000,000% positive it's true.
That's a good point. We are only in his
Unreliable.
POV, Yeah, you're right. It might not be a reliable narrator, but it's certainly his wife. You know, he the way she walks seems like she has just had sex with somebody else, and some other guy walking right behind her with a big smile on his face. He puts those two and twos together, and decides, oh, he's gonna make his wife pay in the most truly heinously imagined way. I mean, it truly disturbing notions. To hobble someone.
Yeah, you cut off their feet so they can't run. And then you do whatever you want with that person.
Awful. Just truly awful.
Gross.
But the storm is a-coming to them as well. So the Barghast are feeling the effects of the storm. And I think this is, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my interpretation is this is the people that Tulle says were all murdered. My retroactive interpretation of the reason we saw this scene is because Tulle's like 500 Barghast were killed, and I think this is that moment, the moment before that happens.
Yeah, that was my impression as well.
Yeah,
and that was another thing that made me be like, well, how did Tulle know that immediately? He just feels it in his heart.
Well, I think he clearly knows some stuff.
Yeah.
He clearly knows some stuff.
Yes.
But before that, we have this awesome scene. Talk about being in awful people's POVs. I loved this scene with Sakara, who we'd met, before when Torrent and the crew portaled away because the hateful wife of the war chief
too
comes
hot.
in. Just comes in and starts shrieking at all of them. Well, we get her POV, and she calls herself the Sakara the Vile, and she's like, I love being vile, just chewing scenery, just a Cruella de Vil,
people describing her as just like so hated. Everything she touches rots around her. She's just the worst.
But she loves it. She loves the power that it bestows upon her to be that feared and reviled.
I will say that I did not put it together that was the same person.
Oh yeah, that's the War Chief Stolman's wife who came in and was like, and I could be wrong, but that's what I
it's okay. It's not the same person.
It's not?
No, because Sakara was Sekara, and it's Satak.
Oh man, I thought this was the same lady.
I was like, I really misread that somehow.
You can see how I would not.
Yeah, like I didn't know the name off the top of my head. I only knew circumstantially.
Yeah, they're very
Satak
similar.
is with Torrent.
Well,
and is like dragon baby, and also described as like, I'm too hot for you, like a little.
Well, what's
little
that?
Rudeness on the way out the door.
That old Rosanna Dana line. Never mind.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
So yes, never mind. That not the same character, but still a fun character.
Yes.
Who everyone hates.
We're meeting for the first time, as far as
loves
I can tell.
being hated. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and she sees the approaching storm, but she's just such a bad bitch. She don't care.
Yeah.
She's just like, I'm not even going to pay attention to it because it's not coming this way. So then we get to the scene that we have been sort of referencing, which is Tulle and Hetan.
Oh, but before we move on,
yeah.
Sakara the Vile has some vile plans. Her husband is one of the war chiefs of one of the other clans, and she's like, this guy sucks. And if he were less of a worm, then he would have already killed Tulle and tried to take over as the super chief or whatever. And so she's like, whatever, that's fine. Storms be coming. I'm going to kill them, and I'm going to kill Hetan, and I'm going to get my way.
Yeah.
So she's got
she hates Hetan because Hetan like doesn't even want to be, doesn't want to have all the power and the title. And she's like, ugh, fool. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like she gonna die. So in Hetan's POV, I thought this was absolutely lovely. This wrestling, this sort of internal wrestling that she has between the Hetan that we saw in these earlier novels, who is just sort of a badass and like suffers
Brash.
no fool.
Yeah.
Yes, suffers no fools and quick to violence and quick to sex and quick to emotion of all kinds. Sort of a walking id. And she has genuinely found a real love in Tulle, and how those things are sort of at war within her, of this man who is very much not like her, not like that, is sensitive and caring and wants everyone to be okay and doesn't want to rush into war, and how, we literally have just come off the scene with Sakara, who's like, ugh, I mean, I like that I'm married to someone who is putty in my hands because I get to manipulate him however I want. But he's such a, weenie that he doesn't do anything. And here we have Hetan, who could very much have that same perspective on her sensitive man, but is persuaded to see it from his perspective and loves him so much that she'll actually support his decision to be, quote unquote, a coward. I thought that was all just so lovely and so beautifully illustrated.
But she would support that decision, but also doesn't, because she feels like he's keeping her at arm's distance by, like, there's clearly information through here that is close to his chest. She doesn't have to support him as a coward because she doesn't quite register the invite that he's opening for him to say, tell me it's okay to just protect our family. Tell me it's okay for us to just run away. Like, who cares about any of this stuff? We can be okay. And her confusion there and sort of taking things personally, being like, why don't you just tell me everything? Like, what's going on? Yeah. Just tell me what's happening. She sort of like misses that moment. And Tulle is like, no, we're going to take the war band. We're going to take 100 people and we're going to see what's up. We know that they're dead. There's nobody there. How do I know? I know. And because it's sort of this misconnection of how they're communicating in their different worlds and worldviews kind of colliding in that moment, Tulle is the person that Hetan, I think, would buy her natural tendencies, crave in a war leader. And then she sees that this has been a moment that has passed by. And she's like proud of him. I get the sense that she feels like pride in the choices that he's making and facing, but saddened in the fact that she's like, I would have taken that out with you. I would have supported the cowardice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, she asks him like, oh, have we found our enemy? And he says, I hope not, and, also interesting that he says, pick 100 of the people that hate me the most.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh yeah. So they'll see how strong you are. And he's like, no. So they'll be scared too of what we're about to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really awesome
Cool
stuff. Just such sophisticated notions conveyed in such sort of beautiful, not on the nose, but not, it's just incredible writing. Incredible. And then we have a scene of Hetan like watching him leave, and she like turns away for a second and he's gone. And she's like, he's not going slow. He's not getting out of here slow. And she has that thing of like, okay, so he thinks we're going to go to war and we're going to lose. Does that mean he's going to fight any less hard because he thinks it's a futile notion? And then he decides, no, he will still fight strongly. I believe in him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, another reference of seeing those jade meteors in the sky.
Yeah. That, I guess, are they continued meteors or are they just slow?
My assumption was that they were just slow, that it's, it's a celestial size and distance issue where it's just like, that's Halley's Comet,
Sure
takes
is coming around.
Is there for however many weeks, because you see it. Yeah. All right. So then we have Setch, Kafal, Torrent. in the wastelands. They've gotten back. They brought the sort of ghost wolves with them, but they're sort of vanishing. And Kafal says, "Oh man, this wasteland, we did this. There used to be beasts here. We wiped them all out." And I thought this was very powerful stuff too, because obviously another very deliberate reference to humans and Earth and how we've
Colonization.
ravaged the planet, and
Yeah.
the extinction of countless species. I thought it was very moving.
And then they've effectively emerged from wherever they were, right? They were in that like sort of bubble tomb almost.
Yeah, they were in
area.
that like alternate world.
But then they came out, and they as they emerged, they're like, "Oh, we know where we are now." They like were able to look up at the stars.
Yeah,
and-
Kafal is like sick with astrology or astronomy, not astrology, astronomy. He's like, "I got it. I know where we are. I know how to get out of here."
Mhm.
And I like this whole exchange here too, where he's like, "All right, well, I guess that's goodbye." And she's like, "No, we're going the same direction. I'll go with you." And he's like, "You won't be able to keep up with me because I'm pretty awesome." And she's like,
Pretty vast.
she's like, "Okay, well, bye." And he's like, oh, "Hang on, wait." And then that kind of little bit of a creepy moment too, where Torrent, she's like, Kafal's like, or Setok is like, "Hey, so all the ladies that are super into you, which one would you choose?" And he's like, "Only you in 5 years, babe." You gotta do some growing up a little bit. I was like, okay, but that's a little creepy.
I got the date circled on the calendar.
Call me back when you've grown up. I'll still be inappropriately older than you, but still.
But I'm not gonna get in trouble with the law.
All right, so then we are back with our ghost, who we believe to be Ikariam, and the group that are moving through this Kachain Shamal Dragon City.
Got more guesses for the people.
You have guesses?
I do.
Oh, that's awesome. You're awesome for even doing that. I have not even attempted to do that. Feather Witch, obviously. Who have you come to?
Well, I have guesses of like people that I'm starting to try and attach to names. I did something I pretty rarely do. I went back and like read one of the scenes in the prologue. I took notes on my phone actually because I was
all right. So Feather Witch's breath.
Yeah,
we know that.
I don't understand. Taxilian still is named Taxilian,
yeah,
which we know is like calling Karsa Tarthano Toblakai, right? It's like his people, not his name. So I don't know if we ever got his name. Maybe we did, but he seems to be the same. Rautos is still Rautos,
right?
I don't know why they have the same names. Here's some people that I've thought of including. Trull's parents. So died in the basement of Lethris. Asan and Sheb kind of bicker a little bit.
Interesting. In a way. Ooh, interesting.
But also,
so you're basing this on all people that that died when Ikariam's magic exploded, right?
In Lethris around that time.
Right.
But Feather Witch didn't die from that, so it's not all Ikariam stuff.
That's right. She was killed by the errant.
Yes. So another one, Nappet. Yeah, I think you maybe brought up Spit Hairman.
Mm-hmm.
I forget who. I'm not fully convinced because his personality doesn't quite seem like it's there.
Yeah.
Nappet is described as spitting at some point, but not into his hands or his hair. So it could be him. But I think I'm actually leaning Nappet as Garen Ebericht.
Okay.
Who also died in that city. Sheb is and Nappet. It lists their obsessions in the prologue. Sheb, I think, is described as like fury, and Nappet is a delight in viciousness. Is their obsession, And Garen
Interesting.
Ebricht feels like a delight.
How
in
cool is it that there's
viciousness.
like this little mystery in here?
I know. The
That's
only
fun.
one that I don't even have any kind of guess for right now is Last, who is described in the prologue as having lived a life. Oh, I didn't write it down, but a basic. I remember because I looked up to make sure I knew the definition of the word. So I remember the definition and not the word. But lived a life of like sort of crippling shyness and never really like went out like of their shell, like such that it got them. I forget what the word was.
Interesting.
Deference.
I mean, I feel like last is a huge hint.
I know, and I can't think of somebody who was
The last of something.
the
Yeah.
last. The only I think I keep coming back to it is like the joke guy.
Yeah.
I know he was in there so briefly, but it was so distinctive. Like the priest of jokes can't make jokes or come out of a shell anyway. So
I love how obsessed you are with this.
I
It's
am.
so
I got
awesome.
like the red yarn board, and I'm like, what does it mean?
I'm like,
what does it mean?
It'll tell me eventually.
Well, based on the comments from last week, it won't.
Yeah.
There's some people,
yeah.
Steven wrote in the comments that it's like, you know them all. You've
But
met
that doesn't
them
mean
all.
he's not going to tell us outright, right? Or is he?
Some people in the comments were like, until I read that comment, I didn't know that we knew them all. So now I'm like, I gotta figure it out. I gotta know. Every week I'm gonna be like, here's names I remembered with no other connection than that. But that's where I'm sitting right now.
And what other series could it be like this, where you have so many characters that it's like, wow, this really is, you get dig deep. So cool.
The other two that I forgot about. The queen and the prince who were in the sacks. Used as magic. Those are the other two that I think maybe Asan and Sheb, but I don't know.
Interesting. The sack queen.
Yeah. Magic bag. Anyway, sorry. Total aside.
Fun stuff. This sequence is very interesting. So first we start with a scene where this drone is awake. I mean, it's we're in full on alien territory, where the sort of nanomachines are awakening the drone to life, that it's aware. It's like, oh man, this is cool. And then we have a scene where Breath, Feather Witch, reads the tiles, which is something we saw Feather Witch do when she was alive as well. And there's some stuff here.
Some new tiles.
And there are these, it seems to me that whatever Icarium did changed the fundamental structure of magic. Because we went from holds to warrens, and now we're going from warrens to something else.
Yeah, we went from tiles to cards.
Right.
And now we got cards. The cards kind of exist, but also tiles again.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Holds to houses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff. And then, so there's all of these, what's the word I'm looking for? Opposites, right? There's all these things in opposition. And of course, opposition we talked last week, we had those wonderful quotes about this notion of things being in opposition. The Atotteral dragon being captured means its opposite is neutered in some way.
Ceases to exist almost. Yeah.
And so we have life and death, light and dark, fire and water, air and stone, fury and star wheel.
Ambition and rule was my favorite.
Brilliant that those two things are opposites, ambition and rule.
The exact thing that you were just saying, where it's like, oh, who is best? The people who don't want it should have it. Ambition and rule. I mean, to me, it's like, oh, well, cotillion and dancer. Is that something? But then I'm like, Sin and Grub. Grub is not liking what Sin's doing in there. And she's like, let's go. And Grub's like, I don't know about this. Yeah. And even just Lady Vile, whatever her name was, the one we just saw being like, I'm wanting that. I'm going to kill them for it. And Hetan and Tulle being like, we're rulers, but we're just trying to keep people alive. It's like we've already seen both sides of that so many times.
And what about Root and Ice Haunt? Which, Root we've seen as a way to describe the Kachain Shamal cities.
Mm-hmm.
Ice Haunt feels like
Jagged.
exactly Jagged, right? So, and we know that they had a war against each other, right, and wiped each other out. Basically,
It can only have one and not the other.
Boom. What about Blue Iron and Oblivion? Blue Iron being described as the sorcery that gives life to machines.
Mm-hmm.
And Oblivion is described as a curse that eats you from the inside out, your memories, yourself.
That's almost like, that's like the chaos zone. It's not. It's just.
It feels like she's describing Icarium to me.
Oh yeah. Well, there's.
Right?
Oh yeah. There was no, because Icarium's Star Wheel, the time guy. And his existence, not that every tile means only one person or whatever else. It's like a concept. But there's something that they say specifically about Star Wheel and the other quote unquote opposite of that one.
Fury. Which
they say you cannot see, you'll only see one and not the other, something like that. And Icarium's Fury, the life stealer, he's like, we see that side of him, but really he's like timeless.
Mappo's whole job was to stop the Fury from coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But really, he's Star Wheel.
Baby, I'm a Star Wheel. Mother flipping Star Wheel.
But juicy tile drop, juicy tilery.
This is good tile drop.
Oh, love it. Love an impromptu reading with some fresh tile.
Oh yeah, give me that tile drop. It ends in a kind of a creepy way though, because they're talking about the taste of the city, and I think it's Breath who suggests to Taxilian, like, hey, why not slice into your body and let it taste the city?
Well, it's a tie-in from the ghost that we think is Icarium watches that thing come to life and is like, oh, that thing bad. Yeah. And the other people who are my companions, good. And so he's like, I gotta go. Well, I can't interact with them. I can't talk with them. I can't warn them. There's nothing I can do here. But the sense that he's there, I think because the tiles come out and his presence is kind of there. Like, whoa, can you feel this? Things are changing. You can feel a closeness of him. And then the closeness of that, the Oblivion tile, they're like, whoa, that one's pretty strong. Getting stronger. It's like enough of a warning that they're like, what do we do? We sense, I get the sense that they're like, we got bad vibes and good vibes. And let's just do what we can for good vibes. But the interesting part is this, like, we know that they're dead people. They're the ghosts in the prologue. Icarium is like peeking into their minds. He can like enter into their bodies, and that's why he can see and sense what they're doing with this conversation. So the relationship there of them opening themselves, I don't really actually know what that means sort of metaphysically.
I don't either. I'm almost, I get a little lost in the metaphor because it's like,
is this
the
real?
Ghost who thinks he's a ghost is not the ghost because the other people are the ghost, and it's like it's very dense and there's layers. And I'm like, at a certain point, I'm like, I don't know what opening yourself up in. If you're the inside, are you the inside or the outside when you open? But very cool.
Yeah,
I'm into it. I can't wait to see what happens next.
And a spooky feeling cliffhanger of like alien in the ship coming to get you.
Full on horror, sci-fi,
interlude.
Yes, really cool. But Icarium has some sort of hope at the end of it. Like the ghost feels like some
and the taste. He's also tasting the air.
The taste, get that taste.
Oh, that's delicious, dusty.
So the last bit of this chapter, we are checking in with our Shake Queen, Yontovis, Twilight, who's having a real hard time of things. She decided to go to the road to Gallan. Turns out it's not an easy road, as everyone told her it would not be.
You have to open it by slitting your wrists.
Yeah. And she's bleeding out and getting real weak. Meanwhile, her lady friends, Pulley and Squish, are just like, this blood rocks. It's making my skin tighter. Look at my complexion.
I've heard that's good for you.
It looks, I feel 10 years younger.
Younger and younger And so it's pointed out, I think, by Yedin, Yontovis' brother, being like, you girls would feel so lucky because if I didn't kill all these other witches, you would have had to share. You would have gotten a little sippins of this blood.
A little sip of blood.
Mm.
Now you're drinking from the fire hose of this blood.
But interesting because in Yontovis's mind, she's like, everybody wants me to be weak. I'm not going to be strong. And because of that, she kind of like doesn't know how to like close up her wounds. She doesn't think to like stop the bleeding, and then she passes out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I am starting to really love Yedin Derrig. He just keeps striding up and being like, I guess I got to be a badass now.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody needs saving? Guess who's here? Old Yedin Derrig. Let's do this.
Literally think nothing of it, but do as I tell you or I'll kill you too. All right, I'm stepping off the road.
Here we go. Let's do this. Certain death. Oh, wait, I'm so awesome. It's not.
It'd be like, first of all, goes through the whole column. He's like, something's not right. There's 3 suns. Everybody's already sizzling on some desert road, being like, we can all tell we're in the wrong. He's like, this seems wrong. The witches are like just drawing runes in the ground, being like, don't look behind the curtain. He's like, where's my sister? And they're like, you don't know anything about this. You can't touch the wars. And he's like, actually, I know all of these things about this.
Yeah.
And they're like, point taken.
Yeah. And and then we had that little moment with Swish and Pulley where they're like, so that whole plan we had about letting the queen die. Turns out, maybe not the best plan.
Because maybe
so rad drinking the blood. Love that part. Great part.
We look just so hot now.
The best. The best. So rejuvenative. It's just a delight. However, only one that can get us out of here, and that's bad. And also, if she dies, I feel like that guy who says he's a total badass will come back and kill us. So feels like a real lose-lose on her dying now. So maybe we should figure out another plan.
And just the confidence of Yedin Derrig being like, all right, so you're gonna find a way to force feed her? And they're like, but we gotta do stuff to do that. And he's like, then do the stuff, and I'll be back, and it'll be done. Okay.
Yeah. So do it. And then he's off the road, and a forkerless sail shows up, and it's all freaky deaky with its double jointed contortionist. That's how I interpret. I imagine these things are like just so freaky deaky, but awesome. And it's called Repose, and it's ready to judge the land. And so the forkerless sail instantly are like feels to me like another full-on sci-fi concept of, they are the alien race that is, they're Vulcans, right? They've given up their emotion to be purely logical, and we have deemed your planet worthy of annihilation. Please step aside as we annihilate it. Mm-hmm. It's nothing personal. It's the most just way to do it. And he's like, F that. I'm Yedin Derrig. Let's do this.
I was like bracing myself for like, this is going to be a crazy fight. And then Yedin Derrig just being like, slice. Oh, you want to know my real name? The Watch.
They call me the Watch.
Just slice and dice, chopped his head off, chopped the top of its head off, and was like, all right, who's next? He's like, that wasn't even the guy I thought I was fighting.
Oh, yeah. By the way, there's 5 Tisleosin. Let's dispatch those as well. By the way, how awesome is it that the Tisleosin literally are fighting with suns?
Amazing.
They're sick, dude.
This seems like, this is a crazy place to be. The suns are so much. I've never seen 3 suns. He's like, yeah, it's an attack. Yeah, there's a 4th one. We're all going to fry.
Using suns against us. Yeah. Sick.
That's
sick.
Cool. That's cool.
And he just dispatches those fools.
And I mean, that's just like speaks to like them being like so powerful, and yet at every turn being like, I can't hold their own in a fight. I can control the sun, but I'll break my spear on the rock that we just drove by.
If this was a full-on movie or television series, you'd have the like Tisleosin supercut of every time they've been like, we're awesome. Ah! Just like
Yeah.
getting completely owned. But just, we're here, we're awesome. What? Why are you putting your thumb literally in my skull? Ah!
Yeah. Oh yeah, feeling around inside the skull is so brutal.
So messed up. I'm the watch, and by the way, I think I left my watch in your brain. So good.
Awesome.
Yeah. And he comes back, and Yontovis, she's like, all the suns are coming. We're all gonna boil here, and he's like, well, you got time. You're cool. I took out the sun boys over there, so we're all good. And that's kind of where we leave things. They're gonna continue their journey. It's so awesome how Eden Derrick is just like, sister, don't do this. She's like, I'm totally doing it. Sister, I have saved you. Please stop doing this. I must continue to do it. All right. I will save you yet again. So good.
But it's also just like, so there's no like hassle to it. He's just like,
Yeah.
Affirmative.
Yeah.
I will do the rescue.
All right. I guess I have to murder some fools.
I also love when she wakes up, she's like, I'm so weak. And then like Pulley and Squish are like radiant young fangs now. And she, like her brother's carrying her, whatever it is, or one of these soldiers is like helping her to her feet. And internally she's like, get these pretty witches out of my face.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not by name, but there's some serious vampire energy to the shake, right? There's serious vampire energy.
Yeah.
Which is really fun. Good stuff. Good stuff. Enjoying this novel as always. So I have 2 sections. Both are kind of long. I think we may have.
We have at least one overlap. I have also 2 sections that are kind of long. Which one is it? We read 9 and 10?
That's right.
Great.
Yes.
So which one's the first one that you have?
I have the first one is Fiddler talking to
Brees.
Cutter.
Oh, to Cutter. Okay.
Doing the optimism thing and optimism, pessimism speech. And the other one that I have is the veteran thing, which I just thought was so rad.
Yeah. I've got
the story of the veteran.
I've got one here that is a part of Deadsmell's backstory, which might be the earliest.
Oh yeah.
In
Hit it.
The sequence here. The god that reached out from the flames to take Vil's breath, however, was not Fenner. It was Hood, with taloned hands of dusty green and fingertips stained black with putrescence, and that reach seemed half-hearted, groping as if the Lord of Slain was blind, reluctant, weary of this pathetic necessity. Hood's attention brushed Deadsmell's mind, alien in every respect but a deep, almost shapeless sorrow rising like bitter mist from the god's own soul. A sorrow that the young mortal recognized. It was the grief one felt at times for the dying when those doing the dying were unknown, were, in effect, strangers, when their fate was almost abstract. Impersonal grief, a ghost cloak one tried on only to stand motionless, pensive, trying to convince oneself of its weight, and how that weight, when it ceased being ghostly, might feel some time in the future, when death became personal, when one could not shrug out from beneath its weight, when grief ceased being an idea and became an entire world of suffocating darkness.
Beautiful. So good.
That's a description of Hood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. How awesome is it that, like, one of my favorite characters in the entire series is literally the Grim Reaper?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
amazing.
It's just the best.
Yeah. All right, here's this one.
Is this the Brees Cuddle one? Fiddler one?
Yes.
Yeah.
You could do it if you want.
You do it. I'm just...
Fiddler snorted. Sapper, listen to me. It's easy to listen and even easier to hear wrongly, so pay attention. I'm no wise man, but in my life I've learned that knowing something, seeing it clearly, offers no real excuse for giving up on it. And when you put what you see into words, give them to somebody else, that ain't no invitation neither. Being optimistic's worthless if it means ignoring the suffering of this world. Worse than worthless, it's bloody evil. And being pessimistic, well, that's just the first step on the path. And it's a path that might take you down Hood's Road, or it takes you to a place where you can settle into doing what you can, hold fast in your fight against that suffering. And that's an honest place, Cuddle. It's the place, Fiddler, said Brees, where heroes are found. But the sergeant shook his head. That don't matter one way or the other. It might end up being as dark as the deepest valley at the bottom of your ocean, Commander Benedict. You do what you do because seeing true doesn't always arrive in a burst of light. Sometimes what you see is black as a pit, and it just fools you into thinking that you're blind. You're not. You're the opposite of blind.
So good.
In these dark days, man, you know, the world is a dark friggin' place right now. And I just love this. I love this. Like, you can't be optimistic being optimistic is worthless if it means ignoring the suffering of the world. But being pessimistic, that's just the first step that takes you into oblivion also.
Yeah.
You got to sort of live in both places. And sometimes you're not blind because you see the darkness. It's just freaking amazing. Such good. It's like heartening stuff to have such eloquent articulation of what you feel inside, you know? Like,
yeah.
It's great. Great art.
Yeah. I'm so glad you read that one. I have one that I forgot that I pulled that I really like.
Awesome.
Caliph talking about her figurine and sort of the cultural element of the figurine.
Yeah.
Her people, she has since realized, had possessed grand notions of their own importance. But then she was sure it was the same for every people, every tribe, every nation, an elevation of self blistering in its conceit. Believers in their own immortality, their own eternal abiding, until came the moment of sudden, crushing revelation, seeing the end of one's own people. Identity crumbling, language and belief and comfort withering away, mortality arriving like a knife to the heart. A moment of humbling, the anguish of humility, all the truths once thought unassailable now proved to be fragile delusions. Kneeling in the dust, sinking still lower, lying prostrate in that dust, pallid taste on the tongue, a smell of desiccated decay stinging the nostrils. Was it any wonder that all manner of beasts enacted the mission of surrender by lying prone on the ground? In a posture of vulnerability, beseeching mercy from a merciless nature, the throat-bared submission to knives and fangs dancing with the sun's light? Playing out the act of the victim, she recalled once seeing a bull veteran, javelin pierced half a dozen times, the shafts clattering and trailing, the enormous creature fighting to remain standing, as if to stand was all that mattered, all that defined it as being still alive, as being worthy of life, and in its red-rimmed eyes such stubborn defiance. It knew that as soon as it fell, its life was over.
Can I keep going?
Please do. I was like, my last quote was, we'll take it to the end.
And so it stood, weeping blood, on a crest of land, encircled by hunters who understood enough to keep their distance, to simply wait. But it refused them, refused the inevitable. For an extraordinary length of time, the hunters would tell this tale, often around the flickering flames. They would leap upright to mimic its wounded defiance, wide of stance, shoulders hunched, eyes glaring. Half a day, and then the evening, and come the next dawn, and there the beast remained, upright, but finally, at last, lifeless. There was triumph in that beast's struggle, something that made its death almost irrelevant, a desultory, diminished arrival. No capering glee this time. She thought she might weep now for that veteran, for the power of its soul so cruelly drained from its proud flesh. Even the hunters had been silent, crowding close in the chill dawn light to reach out and touch that matted hide, and the gaggle of children who waited to help with the butchering. Why, like Calith herself, they sat round-eyed, strangely frightened, maybe a little stained with guilt, too, come to that. Or, more likely, Calith was alone in feeling that sentiment. Or had she felt it at all? Was it not more probable that this guilt, this shame, belonged to her now, decades and decades later? And, in fact, that the beast had come to symbolize something else, something new and exclusively her own, the death of a people. And still she stood. Still she stood.
Oof.
Dude, that metaphor of just not giving them what they want.
Yeah.
Defiant, like, I will die here, but I will not fall.
Yeah. Powerful.
Incredible. Incredible.
Book good.
But good. Thanks, folks, for hanging out with us. We appreciate you. As I said, not sure we'll be here next week. It may be 2 weeks from today.
Another mystery.
Another mystery. See if you can figure it out. My name is Absent. My friend here is Vacay.
Yeah, I was trying to think of that's good.
Anyway, we appreciate you whenever we see each other again. We are grateful for you, and we are grateful for this book club. In the meantime, folks, all we can do in the face of all of it is dance.
When the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality, open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it